The stars had forgotten Earth. The great empires of the galaxy believed that humans were gone, wiped out in the old war. Their name was no longer spoken in the high halls of alien power. Earth was not on any star map. No ship came looking. No one cared. Humanity was just a myth now, a whisper told to scare children. But deep below the ruined surface of Earth, far from the eyes of the galaxy, humans had survived. They lived underground, hidden inside great steel bunkers, forgotten by time. They had no cities, no shining towers, only dark tunnels and cold metal walls. But their hearts were not dead. Their fire was still burning. The children of those who once ruled the skies grew up hearing stories, not fairy tales but warnings. Their elders told them, "The galaxy turned its back on us. They laughed when we fell. But one day, we will rise again." And so, they trained, in silence, learned in darkness, and built in secret. The old leaders were gone, but new ones had risen. Warriors who carried the weight of ancient anger. Engineers who dreamed of building ships that could silence stars. Scientists who studied, or like others studied music. For years they prepared, not for peace but for revenge. In hidden factories under the ice of Pluto, they forged new ships, machines so powerful they made the ground tremble. They had names like Shadowfall, Iron Vow, and Silent Rain, ships painted black to blend with the void, armed with weapons no alien had ever seen, and they were waiting for the day they would fly. In the deep space station called Echo Point, Commander J stood alone in the war room. He looked at the ancient flag of Earth, torn but still proud. His face was hard, his eyes colder than the stars outside. "Is the fleet ready?" he asked. His voice was quiet, but it carried weight. "Yes, sir," replied a young officer. "Dreadnoughts Alpha through Delta are fueled and armed. Stealth systems are active, engines at full power." Jace nodded slowly. For his whole life, he had trained for this moment. He was born underground, had never seen the real sky. But today he would rise to the stars, not to explore, not to speak, but to remind the galaxy that humanity still lived. Across the bunker cities of Earth, lights began to flicker. Alarms did not sound like warnings. They sounded like drums of war. Families gathered at terminals to watch the launch. Children held hands tightly. Elderly veterans stood straight, wearing medals made of scrap metal and old honor. Every heart beat the same rhythm. Return. As the countdown reached 0, the Earth itself seemed to shake. One by one, the warships rose. Silent, smooth, unstoppable, 1,000 engines roared, like thunder trapped in steel. The black ships vanished into the sky, cloaked in darkness, leaving no trail. But in every corner of the hidden human world, people whispered the same words. "We are not forgotten." In the core worlds of the galactic Union, the aliens went about their lives unaware. The High Council of Vernari was busy debating trade deals and border patrols. They had not spoken of humans for over 200 years. To them, Earth was dead, burned out during the War of Silence. Their last contact was a desperate signal, a scream for help that no one answered. So when the first patrol ship disappeared, near the edge of known space, no one cared. Ships went missing all the time, but then a second vanished, then 3 more, all near the same sector, the one where Earth once existed. Warnings were sent, scout teams dispatched, but none returned. Soon, rumors began to spread. Smugglers spoke of black ships with no lights, moving like ghosts. Some claimed they saw a symbol on the hulls, an old blue and green circle, the Earth crest. No one believed them. Why would they? Humanity was dead, but fear began to crawl into the council's chambers. They called for records, for history. They watched old battle footage, studied old ships. And as they watched, the truth hit them like a cold wind. The ships that were attacking them were not pirates, not rebels. They were Terran designs, upgraded, evolved, but unmistakable. The humans were back. In a hidden chamber, the alien Admiral Varthen stared at a silent screen. His long fingers trembled. This cannot be," he whispered. "They were destroyed." Behind him, one of his officers stepped forward, pale with fear. "Sir, The last transmission from the lost fleet. It said just one thing. Var then turned slowly. What was it? He asked. The officer gulped, then repeated the message word for word. The galaxy forgot us, but Earth remembered. The trade ship Silver Echo was late. Too late. In the Czarnus system, time was money, and the Union merchant lords didn't. Like delays, but no one could reach the Silver Echo. It had vanished near the old dead zone, a part of space no one visited anymore. The place once called Sector Terra. Captain Varnak of the inspection fleet stood before a wide hollow table. His eyes scanned the blinking red dots, 5 ships missing in 3 days. No signals, no black box data, only silence. Deep, cold silence. Something's moving in that sector, his second officer muttered. We should send a destroyer squad. No, Varnak replied. We'll go ourselves. I want to see this with my own eyes. He didn't know it yet, but that decision would cost him everything. 3 hours later, Varnak's cruiser, the Spear of Light, entered the dead zone. Behind him, 6 smaller ships followed, engines glowing bright blue. They moved slow, scanning every asteroid, every flicker of shadow. It felt empty. Too empty. The kind of empty that made you hold your breath without realizing it. Suddenly the lights dimmed. The ship's screens flickered one by one, the backup systems activated, and then nothing. Just black. Then a single word appeared on every monitor. Remember. Before Varnak could speak, the first blast hit them from below. A beam of dark red light tore through one of the escort ships, slicing it in two. There was no warning, no signature, not even a heat trail. Just destruction. All ships defensive formation, he yelled. But it was too late. The second attack came from above, faster than any tracking system could follow. One more escort exploded, debris floating in slow motion. Out of the darkness they came. Black ships, silent and deadly. Not large, but sharp, angular like weapons with engines. Their hulls shimmered like oil in starlight, impossible to target. Every movement was perfect. Every shot was precise. These are Terran ships, someone whispered, but no one wanted to believe it. In just 5 minutes, the inspection fleet was reduced to 2 ships limping through space. The Terran warships didn't chase. They vanished again, like they were never there, leaving only wreckage and terror behind. The Spear of Light crawled back to safe space, heavily damaged, but its message traveled faster than light, carried on emergency signal bursts. They're back, and they're not hiding anymore. Back on Earth, deep inside the command bunker beneath Mount Erebus, Commander Jace watched the transmission with cold eyes. Around him, the War Council remained silent. Only the hum of machines and the slow breathing of trained soldiers filled the room. No, now, said Admiral Lennox, her voice firm. We are no longer ghosts, it begins. Jace nodded. We gave them a taste. Now we give them the storm. Across the outer systems, human ships began their silent march forward. Dreadnoughts launched from hidden moons. Carriers unfolded their wings near ancient relay stations. From the belt of Saturn to the rings of Eloria, black steel rose like shadows breaking dawn. But these were not like the old human fleets. These were faster, smarter, forged with secrets hidden for generations. Their AI systems worked like instincts. Their shields pulsed with living energy. They were ships made not to defend, but to punish. On the alien world of Kavarn, the High Chancellor addressed the public with shaking hands. We believe an old enemy may have returned, he said. His words were calm, but his eyes betrayed fear. Behind him, military ships scrambled into orbit. Colonies were put under alert, but they didn't understand. It wasn't just one planet at risk. It was the entire galaxy. In the underworld circuits, pirate lords and smugglers began abandoning their roots. The Terrans are hunting again, one whispered at a backroom bar. I saw a cruiser dissolve into light. No explosion, no debris, just gone. Even the most feared raiders avoided Sector Terra now, because the shadows moved there, and they whispered the name of Earth like a curse. Meanwhile, aboard the Terran flagship Vengeance's Promise, Captain Riven stood before her crew, all silent, all dressed in black and silver. The emblem of Earth glowed on their armor, A simple circle, half blue, half green, scarred with a crack down the middle. She raised her hand. For too long they forgot us, she said. They left. Earth to die, they stole our people, burned our skies, but now they will feel the weight of what they abandoned, the crew responded in one voice. We remember. And then they jumped. The stars stretched and vanished, and the war truly began. In the shadows of Earthrise, humanity no longer begged, no longer waited. They had returned, not as victims but as vengeance made real. Captain Kelvar of the Vurnari Empire sat proudly in the command chair of the Crimson Reach, the largest battlecruiser in Sector 9. He had crushed 3 rebellions, destroyed 7 pirate clans, and stood undefeated for nearly 2 decades. He believed nothing could surprise him anymore, but that belief would die today. Kelvar's fleet had been sent to investigate the disappearances in Sector Terra, 30 ships strong, each equipped with the latest weapons and advanced shields. He expected pirates, maybe strange anomalies, but not war. Not the kind of war that waited for him just beyond the dark moons of Dagon 3. The fleet moved in tight formation, glowing like a wall of steel and light across the black sky. The alien crew moved with confidence, sensors scanned deep space, and weapons stayed armed, but not raised. They believed this would be routine. Then the stars blinked out, one by one. Ships flickered across their screens, then vanished. No explosions, no warnings, just gone like someone had erased them with a cold hand. Report, Kelvar snapped, rising from his chair. His crew scrambled, hands dancing over controls. Sir, an officer shouted, we've lost contact with 5 ships, they were just... Before he could finish, the sound of tearing metal screamed through the speakers. A video feed came online without request. Everyone froze. It showed one of their heavy cruisers spinning in space. Its hull cut clean down the middle. No fire, no smoke, just silence. And then, out of the dark, something moved. Fast. A black ship, sharp as a blade, glided past the wreck like a shadow made solid. Its hull shimmered like oil, absorbing every bit of light. It had no lights, no insignia. Except one, a broken circle. Half blue, half green. A human ship. They're real, Kelvar whispered. His blood turned cold. The Terrans are back. Suddenly, alarms blared. The Crimson Reach shook violently. Kelvar was thrown forward. Lights flickered red. Shields down to 70%. Someone shouted, we're under attack, multiple directions. The Terran ships didn't come in waves, they came in whispers, one here, one there, then everywhere at once. Their movements were too fast, too smooth. They danced between the alien fleet, striking like needles to the heart. Precision over power, skill over numbers. Kelvar tried to order a counterstrike, but his weapons couldn't lock on. The Terran cloaking tech was beyond anything the Vurnari had seen, and when they did hit, it wasn't to damage, it was to humiliate. One enemy cruiser had its engines cut and was left floating in space, helpless, its crew screaming into the void. Inside the Vengeance's promise, Captain Riven watched the battle from her war table. Her face was calm. They still think we fight like before, she said softly. They think we're the same humans they abandoned centuries ago. Beside her, Commander Harrow nodded. They'll learn the truth, Riven gave the order. Phase 2. Suddenly holograms of human ships appeared in dozens of places at once, confounding enemy sensors, and then real ships moved through them, striking from inside the confusion. Enemy fleets fired wildly, hitting their own allies. Their formation collapsed. Kelvar's second-in-command shouted, they're splitting us apart. We can't track them. Kelvar stared at the chaos. Send the retreat signal, he said quietly. Now. But it was already too late. One by one, ships exploded or went silent. Their screens were filled with static and fear. In just 23 minutes, the entire Vurnari fleet was reduced to 6 ships running for their lives. Back on Earth, the war room filled with silent cheers, Commander Jace watched the data scroll across the screen. First encounter complete, he said. Minimal human losses. Admiral, Lennox leaned forward. What did we lose? Jace replied. 3 drones, no crew casualties. Lennox smiled faintly. Then the galaxy has seen the first flame of what we've become. On the run, Kelvar's ship limped toward friendly space. But before he crossed the border, a single message came through his comms in an old Earth language transmission. The words were translated instantly. This was not a warning. This was a memory. Then the signal cut. Kelvar fell back into his chair. His hands trembled for the first time in years. He looked out at the stars and felt something he had never felt in battle. Fear. He wasn't the only one across the galaxy. News spread fast. Alien councils held emergency meetings. Empires demanded answers. Civilian networks broadcast shaky footage of black ships destroying fleets with surgical precision. Whispers became roars. The humans have returned, they said, and they are angry. But no one could agree on one thing. Why now? What had Earth remembered that made them come back? That question would soon be answered not with words, but with fire. The galaxy did not sleep that night. On every world, in every station, screens lit up with shaky footage of burning fleets and black Terran warships. Leaders demanded answers. Soldiers watched in silence, and civilians whispered a name they thought was extinct. Earth, the High Assembly of the Vernari Empire, gathered in panic. Dozens of alien officials shouted across the room, holograms of destroyed ships flickering behind them. Some called for war, others begged for peace. But no one had answers because no one knew the truth. In the dark heart of Terran space, they were already preparing for the next strike. Commander Jace stood before his war council, his voice calm but sharp. They saw our blade, he said. Now they will feel its weight. Admiral Lennox leaned over the table, tapping on a holographic map. Targets selected, military bases, slave transport hubs, and communication relays. We hit hard, fast, and disappear. The Terran fleet launched in silence. No speeches, no ceremonies, just purpose. Their ships split into squadrons, each with a mission: punish, destroy, and remind. On the distant moon of Faraxa 7, the Vernari military base hummed with normal activity. Drones flew overhead. Guards patrolled. Everything looked peaceful. Then the sky opened. Without warning, a shadow passed over the base, followed by the sound of falling thunder. It wasn't weather. It was war. From the clouds above, black Terran dropships screamed downward, engines barely making a sound. By the time the alarms blared, it was already too late. Terran soldiers hit the ground like wolves set free, clad in armor built from advanced alloys. They moved like shadows and struck like lightning. Every shot was clean, every strike deliberate. They didn't kill for fun. They killed with reason. The alien soldiers fought back, but their weapons barely scratched the Terran armor. Confused and panicking, they tried to flee, but the exits were already sealed. Terran AI systems had locked down the base's defenses, turned them against their own side. It was over in 7 minutes. One soldier planted the Earth banner in the center of the base, not as a trophy, but as a warning. Meanwhile, across the stars, a massive alien slave ship called the Golden Thorn floated peacefully through the Andari trade lanes. On board were hundreds of captured humans, descendants of those taken long ago now, sold in secret markets across the galaxy. Aboard the bridge, the alien captain leaned back, sipping his drink, watching a cage feed of the prisoners. He didn't notice the strange silence outside his ship until it was already too late. The first blast came from nowhere. It didn't destroy the ship. It cut off its engines. Then, like vultures, 3 Terran stealth corvettes uncloaked beside it. Their hulls glowed faint red, weapons locked but silent. A voice came over the comms, cold and familiar. Release them, or be judged. The captain laughed. By who? Earth is dead. Then the hull cracked. The corvette fired a single round, non-explosive, right into the bridge control, disabling the shields. The alien captain barely escaped with his life before surrendering the entire ship. When the Terrans entered the slave bay, the human prisoners stared with wide, broken eyes. They didn't know whether to cheer or run. But then one soldier removed her helmet, revealed her face, half burned, half human, all fury. She whispered, "We remember you," and the captives began to cry. Not from fear, but from something they hadn't felt in decades: hope. Back on Earth, broadcasts were being sent into every sector. Not threats, not demands, just footage. Clips of Terran ships saving prisoners, wiping out cruel regimes, destroying factories that built slave collars. In drug labs, the galaxy watched in horror and awe, but one message played again and again across every screen, every frequency. Every planet that once forgot Earth. The galaxy forgot us, but Earth remembered. On the alien capital world of Yataris, panic grew. Refugees fled rimward, fearing Terran judgment. The ruling empress held a private meeting with her war council. They are not attacking worlds randomly, she said, pacing. They are choosing targets, places tied to the past. Her advisor nodded. We underestimated them. We left them behind and believed they would stay down, but they waited. They evolved. In the shadows, another voice spoke. One of the oldest beings alive. A former general from the War of Silence. His eyes were pale with memory. We didn't just leave Earth to die, he said slowly. We made sure no one would ever help them again. We told the galaxy they were monsters, animals, dangerous. He looked up. And now, they are showing us what monsters truly look like. But even then they didn't understand what was coming next. The Terran fleets were just beginning. The fury they carried wasn't just revenge. It was justice, sharpened over centuries. Because, when the galaxy forgot Earth, they didn't bury a weak species. They buried a storm. The Galactic Union had never been afraid before. For centuries, their fleets had ruled the stars. Their borders stretched across thousands of systems. Their laws reached every known race. Every threat had been crushed. Every rebellion silenced, but that was before Earth returned. Now entire fleets vanished without trace. Trade routes turned cold. Colonies once filled with laughter, now burned in silence. The Terrans were not just fighting. They were erasing the past, one empire at a time. In the Grand Hall of the Union, panic ruled. Generals, admirals, and counselors shouted across long tables. Maps flickered with red dots. Locations where contact had been lost. Dozens of them. All recent. We must strike back, yelled one. Admiral, his skin pale and scales twitching. We gather all remaining fleets, one wave, full strength. Strike what? Asked another. They hit and vanish. We don't even know where their home base is. A third leaned forward, voice grim. They don't have one base, they have many, spread across space, hidden in the shadows we ignored. Then came silence. The room froze as a messenger drone floated in, carrying a black case. A high official opened it slowly. Inside was a single piece of twisted metal, part of a Union dreadnought hull, and carved into it, burned deep with precision, were 4 words. Earth does not forget. On the edge of Union space, near the wealthy world of Fashitikal, a massive armada gathered. 500 ships from 17 races. The largest force assembled in decades. Their goal was simple. Stop the Terrans. They didn't know the Terrans were already watching. Above them, hidden in a dark asteroid field, Terran command ship Obsidian Vow watched quietly. Inside, Captain. Riven stood before her officers, her eyes focused on the screen. That's their full force, she asked. Yes, ma'am, her lieutenant said. Their best weapons, most experienced crews positioned perfectly. Riven smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Perfect for their last mistake. She raised her hand. Deploy shadows. 1 through 6, target command cores, not hulls. I want confusion, not victory. Yet, the attack began without sound. From deep space, tiny black drones slipped through every blind spot undetected. They moved like whispers, invisible to sensors. Within minutes, chaos broke out across the alien fleet. Power systems shut down. Navigation controls spun wildly. Ships turned against each other as comms went dark. A Vernari destroyer accidentally fired on an allied vessel, sparking panic, and then came the real fire. Terran warships jumped in from 6 angles, engines roaring. Weapons humming, dreadnoughts dropped like meteors, their black hulls glowing with red energy. Fighters swarmed like insects, fast and ruthless. The Union fleet tried to regroup, but their formations were broken, their leaders cut off. Their pride turned to fear, their commands to screams. It wasn't a battle. It was a message written in fire. In just 31 minutes, the most powerful armada in the galaxy was reduced to wreckage. Floating metal, broken ships, and stunned survivors drifted in silence. From above, the obsidian vow broadcast a single sentence to all channels. This is not conquest. This is remembrance. Back on Earth, in the hidden council chamber deep, under the Pacific Trench, Commander Jace received the battle report. He didn't smile, he didn't cheer, he simply nodded. "Let the galaxy see what happens when you forget your promises," he said. Admiral Lennox added, "They erased us from their maps. Now we erase their power." Across Terran territory, black banners were raised. Colonies once forgotten were reconnected. Human slaves rescued were given weapons, training, and names, not as refugees but as soldiers. They did not cry for revenge, they asked only one thing: "Where do we strike next?" And they were given coordinates. The flames spread quickly. Alien empires who had once ruled now begged for protection. But there was no one left to answer. No safe border, no neutral ground. The galaxy that once laughed at humanity now trembled. At every flicker in the sky, on a luxury world called Drixa Prime, the ruling council watched helplessly as Terran ships descended from orbit. They offered peace, tribute, surrender. The human commander simply replied, "We are not here for gold. We are here to make you remember what you did to our children." And then silence followed, as the world's towers fell like glass. Even the black markets whispered in fear. Terran assassins appeared and vanished. Corrupt leaders found dead with Earth symbols carved into their walls. Slave traders disappeared overnight. Their ships found drifting with cages open and signs that read, "No more chains." And yet, in the darkest corners of the galaxy, a small alliance began to form. Alien leaders who survived the burning met in secret. They had one goal: stop Earth before it was too late. They began to whisper the name of someone long believed lost, someone who once led the betrayal of Earth, someone the Terrans had not yet found. But Earth would. Because they weren't just fighting for justice anymore, they were hunting history itself. The galaxy was burning. World after world fell silent as Terran fleets moved like storms through forgotten space. They did not conquer in the old way. They did not stay to rule. They came, they struck, they vanished, leaving behind wreckage and a single symbol carved into steel and stone. The circle of Earth cracked but unbroken. Across the galaxy, people began to whisper, not just in fear, but in awe, because the Terrans did not only destroy, they freed. They tore open slave camps, broke chains, and shattered collars. They opened cages that had held humans and aliens alike for centuries. Everywhere they went, prisoners stepped into the light and saw the black and silver banners of Earth flying. Above them, on the mining colony of Ravax 12, thousands of enslaved humans toiled under alien whips. They had forgotten the sky. They had forgotten their own songs. One day, the ground trembled and the overseers raised their rifles, believing another rebellion was coming. But it was not rebellion. It was salvation. The Terran dreadnought Iron Vow dropped into orbit. Its massive shadow covered the colony like an eclipse. Dropships poured from its hangars. Black-armored soldiers stormed the workyards. They moved with precision, cutting down guards in seconds. The enslaved humans stood frozen, too afraid to believe, until one soldier pulled off his helmet. His eyes were human, his voice steady. "You're free now," he said. Some fell to their knees, some screamed in joy, some simply wept for the first time in generations. The Terran flag was raised on Ravax 12, and when it rose, the people knelt, not in fear but in devotion. Word spread faster than any fleet. Colonies long abandoned, filled with humans who had lived as forgotten slaves, now saw ships in the sky bearing the same symbol. Each time the same thing happened. The Terran flag was planted, and with it came fire, freedom, and fury. Commander Jace stood at the center of it all. His war table showed not just battles won, but colonies restored. People were returning home. Families torn apart centuries ago were finding each other. "We are not building an empire," he told his officers. "We are raising a memory, one flag at a time." Admiral Lennox nodded. "And the galaxy sees it. They see we are not conquerors. We are something worse for them. We are proof they were wrong." Not all aliens hated it, in fact, for the first time in galactic history, other species began to defect. Some came quietly, offering intelligence, fuel, and weapons. They did not trust the Terrans fully, but they respected them. They saw what humans did to slavers, to tyrants, to cowards, and they whispered, "Maybe this is justice." But for the ruling empires, it was humiliation. The Union declared the Terran flag illegal. Any caught displaying it would be executed. But it did not matter, because on more and more worlds, the circle of Earth was painted on walls, carved into streets, and lit with fire in the night sky. Even alien children drew it with chalk, asking their parents what it meant. "It means the forgotten remember," their parents would whisper. "It means the old ghosts are alive." On the planet Hrythos, where once a massive human city had been enslaved, the Terrans struck harder than ever. A full fleet of dreadnoughts fell into orbit. Their cannons glowed and their fighters swept across the sky. By the end of the day, the alien garrisons were gone, and the people of Hrythos stood under a new sky, cheering as the Terran banner rose. The galaxy broadcasted the footage across every channel. Billions watched in silence. The message was clear. Earth was not rising quietly. Earth was demanding the stars look again. But not everyone cheered. In the shadows of the alien capital worlds, whispers grew louder. The ruling leaders were terrified, their armies broken, their fleets shattered. They realized that if the Terran flag continued to rise, their empires would collapse. So they plotted. They gathered in secret chambers, old enemies now allies, Vernari, Zalari, Drakon, and more. They spoke one word again and again: crush. They prepared a trap, one so large it had never been tried before. A lure designed to pull the Terrans into a single place, where the full strength of the galaxy could fall upon them. But the Terrans were not blind. On the Obsidian Vow, Captain Riven listened to intercepted transmissions. She smiled. "They think we'll fall for it," she said. "They think we don't know history, but we remember too well." And still the trap was set. Fleets moved, weapons charged, banners raised. The galaxy prepared for the largest war in its history. They would either erase Earth forever, or kneel before it. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, because the rise of the Terran flag was no longer just about memory, it was about judgment. The galaxy had never seen such a gathering. Across the black void, fleets from 20 alien empires assembled. Their ships filled the skies like an endless sea of steel. Battleships, dreadnoughts, cruisers, carriers, more than 10,000 vessels, united for one purpose: to crush Earth once and for all. The trap was set in the Halvan Expanse, a star system filled with gas giants and unstable asteroids, the perfect battlefield. The Union promised this would be humanity's grave. But in the command deck of the Terran flagship Obsidian Vow, Commander Jace watched the enemy fleet with calm eyes. His officers stood silent, waiting for his order. The alien armada looked unstoppable. But Jace had seen something greater than numbers. He had seen Terran will. "They think this is judgment," Jace said softly. "But it is not their judgment, it is ours." Admiral Lennox stepped forward, her face lit by red hololight. "All squadrons are in position. The net is ready." Jace raised his hand. "Begin." At first, nothing happened. The alien commanders grew restless, waiting for the Terrans to appear. Then, from the shadows of the asteroid belt, hundreds of black Terran ships emerged, engines silent, weapons glowing faint red. They moved in perfect formation, their banners shimmering across the void. The battle began. Alien fleets opened fire. Thousands of beams lit up the darkness, turning space into a storm of light. But the Terrans didn't meet them head-on. Instead, their dreadnoughts split into wings, weaving through the asteroids, forcing the aliens to follow. The galaxy's greatest armada found itself broken apart in minutes, forced to fight in fragments. On the bridge of the Vernari supercarrier Imperial Flame, Admiral Vark screamed at his crew, "Hold formation! Do not chase them!" But his orders came too late. Dozens of ships were already scattered, isolated, easy prey. The Terrans struck with fury. They targeted engines first, command bridges second, shields flickered, ships spun helplessly into debris fields. One by one, alien cruisers fell silent. But the Terrans had not revealed their full strength yet. "Deploy the Titans," Jace ordered. From the black of space, 3 massive warships appeared, larger than any dreadnought the galaxy had ever seen. Their hulls pulsed with glowing veins of energy. Each carried weapons that hummed with ancient power, forged in silence over centuries. The aliens stared in horror. "What are those?" whispered one commander, before his ship was cut in half by a single pulse cannon blast. The Terran Titans moved like gods of war. Their beams pierced through fleets in seconds. Whole squadrons vanished into light. The galaxy's greatest fleets began to crumble. But the Terrans were not only destroying, they were speaking across every channel. A single voice echoed, translated into every language. "You left us to die. You erased our name. You enslaved our children. This is not war. This is judgment." The galaxy listened in silence. Every soldier, every citizen, even rulers hidden in their safe chambers, they heard it. On the battlefield, alien captains hesitated. Some lowered their weapons, some surrendered outright. Others fought to the bitter end. But none could stop the Terran storm. In the middle of the chaos, Captain Riven of the Vengeance's promise led her fleet straight through the alien command center. Her fighters shredded escorts, her cannons silenced the flagship shields, and then with cold precision she broadcast her message directly into the enemy bridge. "This is for the forgotten," she said, before unleashing the final barrage. The Imperial flame, pride of the Vernari Empire, exploded into a sun of burning fire. Its light carried across the system, the symbol of an empire ending. By the battle's end, the once mighty armada was nothing but drifting wreckage. Out of 10,000 ships, less than 1,000 fled, and those who fled carried a single truth back with them. The galaxy's judgment had failed. Humanity's had begun on Earth. News of the victory spread across the underground cities. Children cheered. Elders wept. Families embraced. Across reclaimed colonies, the Terran flag rose higher, stronger, brighter. In the council chamber, Jace looked at his commanders. "The galaxy is broken," he said. "Now it will remember who we are," Admiral Lennox whispered. "Not ghosts anymore, not whispers, but rulers of their fear." Outside, the Terran fleet regrouped. Thousands of ships aligned as one. Their banners glowed. The circle of Earth, cracked but shining, filled the stars. It was no longer just a memory. It was a warning carved into the galaxy itself, and in that moment the galaxy finally understood. Humanity had not returned for peace. They had not returned for conquest. They had returned for judgment. Silence fell across the stars. The greatest armada of the galaxy had been destroyed. Its wreckage floated like broken teeth in the void. Billions had watched the battle. Entire worlds had seen their leaders fall. And everywhere one truth now echoed. Earth had returned. In the Union capital of Yataris, the council chamber was filled with fear. Leaders of once proud empires sat trembling. Their fleets gone, their soldiers broken, their citizens demanding answers. Some called for peace, others for surrender. But all of them knew there was no escape, because the Terrans were no longer ghosts. They were a storm, and storms could not be bargained with. At that same moment, the Terran fleet drifted in perfect formation above the burning ruins of Halvan Expanse. Thousands of black ships hung in the void, their banners glowing silver blue. The cracked circle of Earth, on the flagship Obsidian Vow, Commander Jace stood at the center of the war table. His officers waited, silent. "They wanted us erased," Jace said, his voice heavy. "They wanted our name buried, our children enslaved, our history lost. But look around. Look at the stars now." The screens showed freed colonies, old human bloodlines rejoined, alien slaves walking free with Terran armor protecting them. The galaxy had thought Earth was dead, but Earth had risen. Stronger than ever, Admiral Lennox stepped forward. "The galaxy waits for our answer. Do we strike again or do we speak?" Jace looked at her, then at every commander around him. "We do not beg. We do not ask. We show them who we are." Moments later, every Terran ship lit up its transmitters, Across every world, every station, every ship, a single broadcast began. The hollow opened with the Terran flag, cracked, scarred, but shining. Then came Jace's voice, steady, clear. Generations ago, you abandoned us. You erased us from your maps. You left Earth to die. But we remembered. In silence we built. In darkness we trained. In fire we rose. The hollow showed images of freed colonies, humans and aliens standing together under the Terran banner. The galaxy could not look away. You called us monsters, Jace continued. But monsters do not free the enslaved. Monsters do not raise the broken. Monsters do not remember. But we did. We remembered every chain, every wound, every betrayal. And now, the galaxy will remember us. The broadcast ended, and the stars fell into silence. But the silence was not of ignorance anymore. It was of awe, of fear, of recognition. On distant colonies, children began carving the Terran circle into walls. Alien families who had been freed began lighting fires. In the shape of Earth's crest, even soldiers who once fought against humans now whispered. They did not return as conquerors. They returned as justice. But not everyone celebrated. In the hidden corners of the galaxy, some still plotted. Leaders too proud to kneel swore revenge. Broken empires gathered scraps of fleets, ancient weapons, desperate plans. Yet deep down they knew the truth. Humanity was no longer weak. Humanity was no longer forgotten. Back on Earth itself, the underground bunkers opened. For the first time in centuries, the surface saw life again. Families walked under real sunlight. Children ran on real soil. And above them in the skies, the Terran fleets flew in formation, casting shadows that stretched for miles. Old veterans stood at the mountain passes, staring up at the banners in the sky. Some cried, some saluted. All whispered the same words. We are remembered. Commander Jace walked through the great hall of the Terran Council. His people rose to their feet, not in fear but in pride. He stopped before the flag of Earth, placed his hand on it and spoke. For too long we were shadows. For too long we were erased. But the galaxy forgot one thing. Earth never forgets, and now the stars remember our name. The hall erupted in one voice. Earth remembered. In the vastness of space, Terran ships spread across every sector. Not as ghosts anymore, but as a living empire reborn. Where once there had been silence, now there was fire. Where once there had been shame, now there was pride. The galaxy had tried to bury humanity in the dark, but humanity had become the dark. And when they stepped into the light, they did not come alone. They came with banners, with fleets, with warriors who carried the fury of centuries. And so the legend was sealed. From that day forward, no map would dare erase Earth again. No child would grow up not knowing the word Terran. No ruler would sleep easy, for they knew that the forgotten had risen, and they would never be forgotten again, because the galaxy forgot humanity. But Earth remembered, and Earth had returned with fury,